As part of its 150th anniversary celebrations, the Royal National Institute of Blind People wants to understand what it's really like for people living with any form of sight loss here in the Isle of Man. On Monday, anyone who has experience is invited to share their views at an event which is being held at Keeldarry, and we're going to find out more about that in just a moment. We're joined live in the studio this afternoon by RNIB Services Manager Julie Lee. Hi, Julie.
Hi.
Yeah, I'll just say hi. And Tanya Shimmin, who's the charity's Eye Clinic Liaison Officer, who's also partially sighted herself and has her beautiful guide dog Bailey here with her as well. Tanya, welcome to you. Lovely to have you with us.
Thank you.
First of all, Tanya, your role with the RNIB is to support patients who may have been diagnosed with a sight-threatening condition. And I wonder how much of a difference you think it makes to people going through that sort of thing, that you really have been there yourself.
I think having experienced it coming out of the consultant's room where there's nobody there for you and you've just been given some devastating news, because I liken it to a bereavement almost. You know, you're losing your sight, you've lost something, and you could do with somebody to talk to. And I think when people come through to me then and they see that they've just heard they might have been told they can't drive anymore, they might be worried about their jobs, but they see that I'm still working, I might do things differently, but I'm still managing to hold my job down. And that is because of the support then that I found out through Julie actually in RNIB, because I was working for government at the time when my sight deteriorated considerably. I was concerned about my job. Got in touch with Julie and she put me in touch to get an assessment with the RNIB, and they then got me into specialist equipment, so I have a computer that talks to me, and all great now with modern technology the way it is, meant that I could still work.
So when did you start losing your sight?
I was actually born with it. It's a deterioration thing and it has got worse over the years, and I had to go to school for the blind, which was a boarding school in Liverpool, and I used to fly back then on the holidays, so everybody at my school thought I was quite posh because I was travelling to this beautiful island to go home. But again, it's a harsh thing to be away from your family and all your family support, and to be going through this. And again, I had to learn how to read Braille, which was quite a chore because I used to get detention for trying to read it with my eyes, which kind of defeated the object. But it is learning new ways of doing things and having that support then, and people signposting you or pointing you in the right direction, or just somebody that you can talk to about it. And that also applies with my role for your family and your friends, because yes, you're going through it and they're watching that, so they would want to support you. So it's important that they also get emotional and practical support as well.
Because I suppose in some respects, you mentioned the family, your family will have had to have adapted as well, won't they?
Of course they do, and that's a big thing for them, and coming to terms with it. You know, it can have all sorts of effect financially if it's the person who's got the main breadwinner that's being affected. You could worry about mortgages, rent, anything like that. So it does affect the whole family, and that's why they need support too.
And what difference does it have having Bailey in your life?
Oh, Bailey's made a huge difference. Again, it's about acceptance too. When people are first diagnosed, it's very difficult to accept anything. I had long cane training and I used to carry the cane around in my bag for like 4 years before I used it. And then I thought, no, I need to do something else about this, because my skills with the cane weren't brilliant. You'd be bouncing off wheelie bins. Applied for a guide dog. They match you up then. It's quite a intense thing that you go through, but so that they get you matched to the right dog for you, how you walk, whether you work full time, what your social activities are. And then went over to meet Bailey and do my training in Manchester, and I can honestly say that was one of the best days ever, because it made such a difference, and then enabled me to get out and about and join the likes of the Manx Voices choirs, Spring Chicks, WI, get about. My daughter lives in London, so off we go on EasyJet with Bailey, and she has the front row seat, so they're very good to her. They all know her down at the airport, and she just gives me the confidence then to get out and about again.
Well, Julie, we've heard a little bit about Tanya's role. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. But in terms of a broad overview of what the RNIB does here on the Isle of Man, what are the main services that you provide?
We hold actually lots of services. We have a low vision service, which is directed at people whose sight can't be corrected with lenses or spectacles. So we might have to provide something like a magnifier or a different type of reading aid. We also teach people how to use that most effectively to get the best out of the vision. We have a lady that works with us as a rehabilitation officer as well as a low vision therapist, Carol White. And she'll go out to see you at home, teach you how to read more effectively, how to get the best out of the vision that you have. It's all about the use of your functional vision, how you use the vision that you have remaining after you've been diagnosed with a sight-threatening condition. And people come into Corin Court for a low vision assessment. We have an optometrist there, Adrian, who's brilliant with the people who come in, and he will assess how you use your vision and will recommend different types of magnifiers, different types of reading aids. We also do a lighting assessment, so we can measure the amount of light that you have in your home and whether or not it's effective. Is it hindering the way that you use your vision? So we'll look at that as well. And aside from low vision service, we also have a full rehabilitation service. Now, that's where we aim to give people back the skills that they might have lost or they've thrown away since they've been diagnosed with sight loss. So what we try to do is to give them back the capability to live as independently as they can. It could be that we'll do mobility training, teach somebody how to get from A to B, and as Tanya said, using that long cane. For some people it's great, for others not so much so.
It's a definite skill, isn't it?
It's a most definite skill. When you see somebody walking along the road with one of these white canes, don't think that they've just picked that up. They've had to go through months of training, they've had to go through months of concentration, hard work, and lots of frustration as well. We've worked with individuals who've taken to it very, very quickly, and we've worked with others who it's taken several years to master the skills. So don't ever overestimate or underestimate just how much work goes into that. We teach orientation skills, so it's all right being able to walk around, but you've got to know where you are at any given time. So we teach them how to use those skills, how to use the environment, how to use sound, how to use light, how to use the sun, all different skills, and also how to use something called echolocation. Probably a lot of you have heard of that. We think about the bats using it and the dolphins using it, but humans use it as well in one form or another. And we teach people how to get the best out of that to help them locate obstacles and find the way around safely. We teach communication skills. That could be how to use a typewriter. No, it's not a typewriter anymore, is it? Showing my age now. Keyboard skills. We teach keyboard skills, computer skills, and we also teach Braille as well. So that dreaded Braille that Tanya talked about. It is a dying art now. There's not that many people who will use Braille because of all the latest technology that we have. But it's still a skill that we use, and we do get the occasional Braille item coming through that we have to then try and translate for those who cannot read Braille. So we provide all of those services under contract with the Isle of Man government.
And you mentioned the fact that you're based in Corin Court. Now that is where the Manx Blind Welfare Society is as well, but you're two very distinct organisations.
We are. The skills that we have are vastly different. We have an excellent working relationship, but one of the things that does niggle at times is that we do lose our identity. Manx Blind Welfare Society is the go-to charity that people do refer to here on the Isle of Man. It's been long established, and we ourselves have actually been with Manx Blind Welfare for almost 19 years, and people don't know that. But the work that we do is very, very different, and they have their skills, their strengths, as we have ours, and we are employed to provide those skills, as I've just outlined now.
And how do you work with the UK branch of the RNIB?
Although we're part of RNIB in the UK, we are very much a separate unit here. We come under the management of RNIB in Northern Ireland, so our Belfast office manage or oversee the work that we do here on the island. Although we're part of a bigger organisation, we operate very much differently here. The Isle of Man is a unique place to be. The way that we work is uniquely different, although we do follow obviously the work patterns and the regulations regulations that we all have to adhere to. But we're very much island-based, and we're very much focused on what the Isle of Man people want.
Well, that brings us neatly on to this event that's being held on Monday. Just tell us a little bit about that. What's the main aim of it?
The aim of it is RNIB is looking afresh at the work that we do. We've had an overhaul of the way that RNIB is operating at the moment, and we have a newly developed network, so a network of different I've forgotten the word I'm trying to use.
Okay.
Disciplines within RNIB, and we have a network manager, Jackie Witherow, who's based over in Belfast. And what we've agreed to do is we want to bring together people who are affected by sight loss and look again at what things are we operating by, what are we doing, are we doing it right? It's not a witch hunt by any means, shape or form, but what it is, we want to know what people want us to provide. It's all well and good us sitting there at Corran Court, and it's all well and good us going to meetings and saying we think this is a good idea, we think this will be good, but we want to hear it from the people out there who are actually affected by sight loss. What does it mean to you? How are you affected? What would make your life better? And by holding these community events, we've been running them across Northern Ireland through March and April, and we're holding this one on the Isle of Man on Monday. We want as many people as possible to come along and give us your views. Tell us what you want. We want to hear it from you. We can't improve, we can't change things without you telling us what it is we need to be doing, and we want to have your voice heard.
And in terms of what level of sight loss you're looking for from people or their friends and family, is there a certain level that counts as having a significant proportion of sight loss?
Absolutely not. The minute somebody has any difficulty with seeing, it doesn't matter how little or how severe that is, if they are struggling, we're there to help them, either to give advice, to provide equipment, or even just to listen to somebody to tell us what their concerns are.
And Tanya, for you, do we know how many people roughly live in the island with some sort of sight loss issue?
There's a register, and there's over nearly
329 unregistered
that are registered, but that's people that are registered with severe or partially sighted. But like Julie's just said now, there's a lot of people where pouring a drink, just like going to get a glass where you can't see the difference, the contrast, anything at all like that affects your sight, then really speaking, that's what we're here for. And the Connect that they were doing on the Monday is very much about everybody then having a voice. So you may be told that you've got glaucoma and don't know anything about it. The Connect, they've got a Connect magazine that you can go on, you can get different things from that you can learn about. You can have your say on that as well. And like Julie said, we're here to provide this service, but we need to know what people want from it as well as providing what we've already been providing.
I wonder how difficult it is for people living with sight loss when others look at them and say, oh gosh, I wouldn't know that you have any sort of issue. And you talk about, things like pouring a drink, for example, and those really small things that you can struggle with. And I just looking at you, Tanya, I wouldn't know unless you had Bailey that you had any sort of issue. And that must be quite a challenge sometimes.
It can be, it certainly can be, because you can be walking down the street, and before I had Bailey, people, especially nowadays, are on the mobile phones. They're very busy people, and bang, you're straight in front of somebody. So things like that can happen. There's no big sign that says I can't see, unless you do obviously have a stick or a cane or a guide dog. But there's a lot of people that have sight vision that don't use anything like that as of yet. They're not at that point where they need to, but there's still those things that will occur, and people will just say, oh, I didn't know. You didn't look any different from anybody else. But you shouldn't have to. And one of the things that I found with the cane training was you can, instead of trying to, you come across people that will try and look down, try and see a pavement and struggle to see as much as they can. But the minute that I was taught to use the cane, your head's up high again. And that's what it's about for me. You should be able to hold your head up high and walk along and get on with your own life with the assistance and support from other people then that are out there to help you.
And you are a fantastic example of somebody who has not let this hold you back. You've run a half marathon?
Oh, gosh. Well, I think I crawled the last 2 miles. I might be exaggerating slightly. Yes. Because Bailey's been so good to me, I actually did the London half marathon for guide dogs. Which, as I say, I was doing it with my daughter, and we got to about the 12th mile. And it was like, right, I've had this now. So they brought Bailey along. This is very sneaky. They brought Bailey along to the 12th mile to remind me why I was doing it. So I had to get to the 13th. But what was even worse, you had to carry on further to get your medal. And I'm like, that's not on that, you know. Yes, that half marathon was very interesting indeed.
Well, Tanya, Julie, it's lovely to have you with us this afternoon. We will be talking to you again later in the show. But for people listening, Julie, who would like to come along on Monday, just give us the details of when and where it's happening.
Okay, it's taking place at Keeldarry, which is at Nobles Hospital. The event begins at it starts at 10:30. Come and have a cup of coffee and a slice of cake with us. And it kicks off at around about 11 o'clock. We've got a team coming over from Belfast who, because we want this to be as neutral as possible, we don't want to influence what anybody's saying or doing. So we're bringing somebody from outside of RNIB also, as well as a team from RNIB. So they'll be there at Keeldarry at Nobles Hospital 10:30 till 1 o'clock, and please bring a friend or a family member with you as well, because it'd be good to hear their views too.